Pushing show live now. Well, I think we are live. Let's get this paused. Okay, I'm just going to let people come to the stream. This is our special Christmas special. I'm here with the models. We're wet here in Vancouver. It's heavy rain, so I've got my iPad here so I can watch the chat. And I'm just doing some final setups, and we're going to have kind of an interesting special show for you guys. A lot of you have requested a show dedicated to the aircraft models, which I'm so passionately interested in. And that's what we're going to do today. So in about 5 minutes, I'll come back and we'll start that show. So just give me a few minutes and we'll be back. Okay guys, we're just about ready to start the show. I'm just doing one last social media post here and we're going to start the show. So give me 1 second. I'm just sharing this to my social media to advise people that we're here. So give me 1 second and I'll be here with you. the last one. Bear with me. Okay. Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to this special show. We're usually, of course, at Vancouver International Airport. My name is Henry Tenby, and today's a special day. It is Thursday, December the 19th, 2024. We would normally be at Vancouver International Airport live streaming from the runway, but it is rainy today. And because it is the holiday season, and I just didn't want to miss out from being with you guys. So it gives us a chance to have something that you guys have requested. And this is a special show featuring my passion, which might be some of your passions as well, which includes these aircraft display models, which I've collected over the last 30 to 40 years. And we're going to hang out with each other over the next hour or so. At least we'll be able to have a show. I've got a lot to talk about. We're also going to be doing our contest, our Tally-Ho Aviation Trading Card giveaway contest. So we've got that coming up as well. So we've got a lot to talk about. So anyhow, I'm here. We have 11 of you watching. Hopefully that number will increase. We'll have to see. So I hope you've all been well. Over the last week, it's been quite busy here in Vancouver. We were lucky that we had our show last week because the weather did deteriorate quite significantly. We've pretty much had rain every day. We had one sunny outbreak yesterday morning, and that was short-lived. So we're back into the winter doldrums. We're back into the rain this morning, and I just can't risk the equipment that we use for the live stream becoming damaged with the wet and the rain. So here we are indoors. We're going to do an indoor show. So anyhow, hope you're all here. I'm just looking at the live chat. Is there anybody? Let's see. Okay, hello, one Avgi girl. Gerard, good to see you. Paula. Father Norman, good to see some of you regulars here. Thank you very much. And we've also got Kurdistan E-Paper as well. So E-Paper as well. So, okay, thank you very much for being here, guys. Behind me is my collection of aircraft display models. As I say, I've been collecting these models for many, many, many decades. And some of you had requested, let's do a show with the models. So I figured, why not? I have selected a handful of models here that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to share with you. But in between, I've got other things to tell you as well. But let's just first, I'll just grab an airplane model to start the show off with. And how about this one? This is a local model. It's a Vancouver model. This is Air BC. So Air BC was an Air Canada connector airline that was basically absorbed into what we know as Air Canada Jazz. And starting in the late 1980s, Air Canada acquired a number of local service operators from coast to coast to provide their feeder network. And Air BC was one of them. This model is in the Air Canada connector livery. It's a Dash 8 100, de Havilland Canada Dash 8 100, made by Space Models of the UK, and it is in 1/72nd scale, and it's a fabulously accurate model. These would have been made in fairly small numbers. Maybe 15 or 20 of these models would have been made by de Havilland. Well, they would have been commissioned by de Havilland and given to executives at Air BC. At the time, Air BC was owned by BC businessman and billionaire Jim Pattison. The Jim Pattison group of companies owned Air BC. And Air BC was itself an amalgamation of a number of small local service operators that had been in existence here in Vancouver since the 1950s, flying primarily float planes, Beavers, Otters, Grumman Goose, Mallards, Turbo Mallards, Piper Aztec, Islander, all of these smaller types of airplanes up and down the BC coast. And Jim Pattison amalgamated them into Air BC. And of course, on our live streams now, we have the present day version of this company, which is Jazz, and they operate Dash 8 Q400s, which of course is the stretched version of this airplane. So yeah, this airplane and this livery would date from 1984, 85, somewhere thereabouts, when the first of these aircraft, 86, were being delivered from de Havilland. And this model's in really, really nice condition. As I say, the shape is absolutely fantastic. It's made by Space Models of the UK, and it's a really, really nice model. I've had this in my collection for quite some time. But yeah, look how short the Dash 8 100 is compared to the present day Q400. So it's kind of neat. Space Models they're not in business anymore, but they make a very, very accurate model. Notice that the spinners are made out of turned aluminum, but the shape of the model is just super, super accurate. Space Models would receive, I guess, plans from the manufacturers of the various models that they make, and they would use those plans to make their models. But isn't this a very gorgeous model? The Airbc Dash 8 100. And back in, well, these airplanes were in service from, as I said, the mid-1980s for about 20 years. Hang on one second. This model, I would say, is probably one of a handful that exists. So let me just have a look at the chat here, guys. Just make sure I haven't missed anything. Thank you very much, Father Norman. Wishing you all the best of the season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you all. And Hans says, what happened with my prize? Oh, so Hans, we have a mail strike here in Canada. So the Canada Post has been on strike for the last month. I have not been able to mail your prize yet. Canada Post is returning to work in the coming days. So probably next week, I will finally be able to mail your prize to you. And the problem is that Canada Post has a whole month worth of mail that's backlogged in their system, and they are absolutely swamped with parcels, letters, deliveries. So it is a massive, massive rush of mail, and they've said that delays will take time, especially overseas. So I'm hoping to mail your prize next week, and I would say please allow 2 to 3 or even 4 weeks for it to reach you. That's just the state of the postal system here in Canada right now. So hopefully you'll receive it early in the new year. Thank you very much for asking that question, Hans. So this was our Airbc Dash 8. Let me move on to another very nice model going from the 1980s to the 1950s. This is, some of you will probably recognize it, it is a Pan-American PanAm Boeing Strata cruiser. This model is made of metal. It would date, it's in the old PanAm livery. So before they introduced the meatball in 1958. So this model would probably date from the early 1950s. And it is in metal, and it's made by Scharschmidt of Germany. So PanAm was very active in the German market in the 1950s, flying out of Berlin and Frankfurt, international services. And it's a rare model. I mean, this, I obviously don't have the original stand. It's missing a propeller prop hub, which I'll have to fashion. I'll have to make that. But this model is, I mean, for a model that's 70 years old, it's just a rare thing. The BOAC and PanAm Strata cruisers were the international workhorses of the late 1940s and early 1950s. And it was a double-decker aircraft. So let's see if, yeah, you can see there's windows, that there was a bar and galley on the lower level. So it was a double-decker airliner, international airliner. And American-based airlines operated them as well, including Northwest, American Airlines, and United, in addition to PanAm and American Overseas. American Overseas was absorbed into American, I believe, in the late 1940s or early 50s. But PanAm operated their Strata cruisers up until, I believe, 1960. And this model would have been made for the airline's promotional purposes. It would have sat on a stand and it would be displayed at a ticket agency. And the registration N1023 Victor is accurate, and the name of the aircraft is Strata Clipper America. So I think that's probably accurate as well. We'd have to do a Google research on that, but you can see at the front here, it says Clipper America. And obviously this model has seen better days, but again, we're talking a model that's, well, from the early 50s, so it would be 75 years old, 75 years old. It's really quite something. So this is the only one of these small Schmidt models that I have in my collection. I've been toying with the idea of refinishing the model, completely restoring it into a new color, well, repainting it using the exact same color scheme, and but completely restoring the model. So just because it's in not perfect condition, so that's something I might do. My mind goes back and forth on it, whether I do that or not. Paula says she only has one Air Canada model that she got for her daughter. I have a number of Air Canada models, actually. Maybe I'll pull, let me pull an Air Canada model. I didn't have one, but I'm going to pull an Air Canada model. Let me get it. Hang on a second, guys. Let's see. I will pull for Air Canada. Which Air Canada model should I pull? I will pull, I think, I've got an Air Canada model here to specially pull for you guys. Give me 1 second. Why not? Why not? So, here is a very nice Air Canada model from my collection. This is an Air Canada 767 in the original delivery colors, also made by Space Models, believe it or not. This model would date from about 1982. So Air Canada, their initial batch of 767s were, of course, Series 200s, and this is very similar to the aircraft that was involved in the Gimli glider incident, where Air Canada had one of these aircraft that ran out of fuel on a Trans-Canada run, and the airplane became a glider, and the pilot stick-handled the airplane without the advantage of fuel, and the airplane became a glider, and it landed safely on an abandoned airfield in Manitoba, at Gimli, Manitoba. And that was a very famous aviation history event that happened here in Canada. So yes, this is one of Air Canada's first 767s. Of course, later 767s became stretched. They had the 767-300. But as I say, this particular model, you can't see it, but there's a sticker on the underside, Space Models of the UK. And just this model's in really nice condition, actually. So I don't know, do any of you guys have Air Canada models, I wonder? Hello, Silky Sam Cam, thank you for joining the stream. I should point out, while we're on the topic of Air Canada, this is my brand new book that I've just published, From Lodestars to Jets. The book has now arrived at our North American warehouse, and we are now distributing the books to our US and Canadian distribution centers. And those of you that have pre-ordered this book, thank you very much for your pre-orders. I very much appreciate it. I appreciate your patience. And these books are now being sent to our pre-order customers. But again, as we've had a Canada Post strike, I'm not able to send the books safely yet with Canada Post. So here in Canada, the books are being sent via various courier companies. I'm using ICS, Canpar, and Purelator to send the books to our customers. And in the United States, from our distribution point in the US, we're using the United States Postal Service. So those of you overseas that have ordered the book, the plan is that we're going to be sending the books via Canada Post early in the new year, once the backlog of mail has been cleared. So that's the plan. But yes, this is the new book from Lodestars to Jets, and I'm going to show you the book here in just a second. Silky Sam, congratulations, Silky Sam Cam, for being a JetFlix member for 5 months. Very much appreciate your support. So yes, this is the Air Canada 767 model. Let me actually take this moment to actually show you guys the book. It is almost 300 pages. It is the Clayton Glenn Memoirs, and Clayton Glenn was one of TCA's early employees. He started work with the company in 1943, and Clayton Glenn was basically involved with the engineering and analysis of all the airliners, all the airliner types that TCA ordered from the 1940s right through the 1970s. So you know, from the props to the jets, he was involved, and his inside perspective, his memoirs, basically chart the history of Air Canada, Trans-Canada Airlines, from its very early days right through to the jet age. So this book is absolutely loaded with color photos, and it's the history of the company as it's never been told. The history of TCA Air Canada has appeared in many books over the last 80-odd years. So we all know the standard issue history of the company. This is his personal experience with the company, and it's the history of the company layered into his life experience and in working with all these interesting aircraft types as they were delivered, you know, all from the North Star, DC-3, Lodestar, Super Constellation, Viscount, Vanguard, DC-9, DC-8, etc. So this book is, I would dare to say, it's probably the most comprehensive history on TCA and Air Canada that's ever been published. And as I say, it's 300 pages, and I believe and I hope that many of you will find this book to be extremely interesting and informative, because it's not the same information that you have seen in other books and other publications. So there's every single page, or almost every single page, has illustrations, photos. Many of these images are in color, you know, all the way up to the DC-8 era here. All the aircraft that Air Canada even considered and analyzed in their studies are in this book. But yes, it's an absolutely fabulous history, and one AvGeek girl has posted the link. Actually, well, she posted the link. Yes, if you go to my website, henrytenby.com, you'll see this book right on the home page, and you can place your order for the book now. We've got to process all the pre-orders first, so it's going to take me between now and Christmas, I think, to get all the pre-orders into the system, and then we're going to start to process all the new orders. So if you'd like to get this book, limited quantity have been produced. We've only printed 300 of these books, so once it's sold forever, sold out, so you might want to reserve your copy. And by the way, Silky Sam has gifted 1 JetFlix membership, and Hans Olav Mort picked up that complimentary membership with compliments of Silky Sam Cam. So thank you so very much for your support, Silky Sam Cam. Good to see you here. But yes, this book is really something very special, and it's hardcover, printed on 105 GSM paper, which is high quality gloss paper, and it is unique. As I say, it covers all the way from the North Star, Lodestar, Connie, all the way up to the DC-8 and DC-9 era of the early to mid 1960s. And I really hope you'll consider purchasing this book for your library. It will sell out fast. I'm thinking it'll be within a year, these books will be sold out. So you've got a bit of time, But, you know, think about it. So yeah, 300 pages. It's a beautiful book. And you can purchase it on my website, henrytenby.com. And the good lead-in to the book, of course, was this beautiful Air Canada 767 space models that Paula asked about. So very cool, isn't it? Yeah, I really like this, a very accurate model, 767, Air Canada 767. So actually, let me put this model to the side and let me talk about, let me just check the battery on my camera. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure our battery strength is good. Okay, great. We're at 78%, so that's pretty awesome. So this is going to be our next model, this Iberia Douglas DC-10. But first of all, let's have a run through on our Guess the Aircraft contest. I'd like to thank Tally Ho Aviation Trading Cards for donating a number of their aviation trading card sets to us to give away as gifts on our show. And these are limited edition playing cards that have been produced by Tally Ho Aviation Trading Cards. Their trading cards are basically, these are available only in 2 locations. They have an eBay store and they have an Etsy store. So there's not too many places that you can get them, and once they're sold out, they're sold out. And just like hockey trading cards, or sports trading cards, these are highly collectible. And One Half Geek Girl has posted the link into the chat right now. Thank you very much, One Half Geek Girl. And we're going to do a contest called Name the Plane. And the way it works is, if you can, let's do this. I've written on this blank piece of paper an aircraft type, okay? And the first person to guess the aircraft type will win a set of these trading cards. Now, as Hans asked, he said, where's his cards? We're not going to be able to get these mailed probably until next week, just because of the postal strike. So and it's going to be delayed in delivery just because of all the mail that's stuck in the Canada Post system. But we'll get it mailed to the winner as soon as possible. Let's give this a try. I am going to give you guys a hint as to what I have written down on this piece of paper, and then whoever is the first person to guess what I have written down on this piece of paper will win the playing cards. So I'm gonna try to make it easy, because we have I think about 30 of you watching right now. So let's give this a try. This aircraft is a vintage 1960s 4-engine jetliner. Let's see if we can find a winner. We're doing our first round right now, and I'm watching the chat. I'm looking for a vintage 4-engine 1960s jetliner. Let's see what you guys can come up with. I'm watching the chat right now. Let's see if any of you guys can come in with it. PanAm 006 guesses Boeing 707. And One Half Geek Girl has put into the chat just what that. Okay, what I had just said. Philip Ansett guesses VC-10. These are both very valid vintage 1960s jetliners, but they're not the right answer. So, okay, Andrew guessed the exact same aircraft as PanAm 707. So it's 1 guess per person in this first round. So if we don't find a winner, we'll go to a round number 2. But let's just, again, if we can keep it to 1 guess per person for the next few minutes here. And if we don't find a winner, we're going to come up with another one. PB477 says Conver 550. No, I think you mean 880, but no, that's not correct. So that's PB477. What else have we got? Paula guesses Douglas DC-8. That also is not correct. So through process of elimination, those of you that are watching should be able to narrow it down here, because there weren't that many 4-engined jetliners. from the that were developed from the 1960s. So we have Zeke 747. It is a 1960s developed jetliner, but it isn't the correct 1960s developed 4-engine jetliner. So yeah, you guys, I mean, I think we might hit the winner here. What other jetliners, commercial jetliners, were developed in the 1960s with 4 engines? So we've already had VC-10, we've had 707, we've had DC-8, we've had 747. There's not too many left, actually. I'm looking for the correct answer. So what else have you guys got here? What else have you guys got? Again, we're looking for the winner here so that we can mail you your gift prize, courtesy of Tally-Ho Aviation Trading Cards, your set of aviation trading cards. So what else have we got? Paula says, yeah, only get 1 guess. That's right. Only get 1 guess in this first run through. So if we don't find a winner, we'll do a second run through, and then we'll hopefully find our winner. So yeah, what other aircraft have you guys got? What other aircraft can you guys guess for our 4-engine classic jetliner? Okay, well, while you're thinking, actually, I'm going to show you guys this beautiful model. This model is a 1/164th scale Douglas DC-10. It's a tri-jet. The Douglas DC-10 was also developed in the 1960s. It was a product of the 1960s. Gareth L says Boeing 720. Not the right answer, but it is a 4-engine jetliner of the 1960s. So yes, the Douglas DC-10 was a competitor to the Lockheed L-1011, which was a very advanced aircraft. The DC-10 wasn't as advanced as the L-1011 in many respects, but they both were quite successful, similar numbers built, and they both remained in service from the early 1970s up until about 20 years ago. Yeah, something like that. So this model is a factory model on the original factory base. You can see, well, it's not quite the right nameplate, but the base is correct. This is the style of base that Pacific Miniatures used. And Pacific Miniatures was a contract model maker, and they made the models for Douglas and other airlines and aircraft manufacturers of the era. So this model would date, well, this is the old Iberia livery. So this livery would date from when the first Douglas DC-10s were delivered to Iberia from Douglas. Comet, Father Norman. No, that's not the right answer, but yes, de Havilland built the Comet 4 in the 1960s. So that is a 4-engine 1960s jetliner. So you guys are through process of elimination. I think we might get a winner. But thank you very much, Father Norman, for that guess. Again, this model dates from about 1973, 1974. It's in really nice condition. Iberia Airlines changed their color scheme to the multi-cheat line over the top. The red and orange and yellow over the top scheme in the late 70s, I think in 1978. But so this model is quite nice. It's in all original condition, actually, and kind of a basic model. You know, not too detailed, but it's nice. And you know, for an all original model from 1974. It's in pretty good condition. So there you have it. This is, hello Cindy at 34L. Thanks for joining the show. Yeah, Iberia DC-10. This is, again, 1/164th scale. Very nice model. So let's, let me pull another model. This is kind of neat. Does anybody know what this is? Can any of you identify this model? It is British. It's metal, And it's also made in the UK, I believe, probably by Westway Models. What a beautiful base it's on. Kind of like a paperweight. It was never painted in an airline livery, and I'm thinking of actually painting it into an airline livery. Does anybody know what this model is? Does anybody know? Yes, it's a Dove. PB477, you're correct. This is a de Havilland Dove. It's in 1/72nd scale. So it's actually the same scale as the Dash 8. So there you go. They're flying in formation. Isn't that neat? What we've done here is we've simulated an air-to-air photo shoot. This could be a photo chase plane, and they'd be photographing this airplane. So there you go. That's the exact same. They're in the same scale. This airplane seats what, about 10 or 10 passengers. This airplane seats 36, 38 passengers. So yeah, you've got this is the perspective on the size difference between the airplanes, which is nice to, you know, it's kind of neat, isn't it? They're both highly accurate models, and I'm actually thinking of actually putting this model into a color scheme because it's kind of generic. I think it would look nicer in an airline color scheme. So I'm thinking of painting this into Bal Air of Switzerland. I think that would be it would look kind of neat in the Bal Air color scheme. So yeah, de Havilland Dove, and it is a professional model. This model, as I say, I think it was made by Space Models of the UK. Do we have any other guesses on our contest here? We're looking for a 1960s jetliner, 1960s 4-engine jetliner that none of you have. We've had a lot of guesses already. We've had DC-8, 747, 720, VC-10, Comet, and none of those are the correct 4-engine jetliner that I've got written on this piece of paper. And it's only one guess per person, so you know, we're looking for that. We're looking for that correct guess. So anyhow, what do you guys think of this model? I am pretty. I like this model just because it's quite nice and accurate. Hans says KC-135 is my guess. But Hans, yeah, the KC-135 is a military aircraft. I'm looking for a 4-engine. I'm looking for a 4-engine airliner, civil airline. There we go. Congratulations, Karen Lewis. We have a winner. We have a winner. Karen Lewis has correctly guessed Concorde. Wow, Karen. Karen, I'm going to put my email address into the chat right now, and I'm going to ask you to send me your mailing address. If you could send me an email with your mailing address, I'm going to send you your prize. And wow, that's awesome! Karen, congratulations! Awesome, you did it. You guessed Concorde. So the Concorde is a 4-engine jetliner that was developed in the 1960s, all through the 1960s. I believe it was as early as 1962 when they first started conceptual work on the supersonic airliner that became the Concorde. And well, the airplane didn't go into service into the 1970s, but it was developed in the 1960s. Wow! Yes, that's awesome. That is awesome. My pleasure, Karen. So, Karen, just so you know, I don't know if you heard my earlier comments, but here in Canada, we've had a mail strike for the last 1 month. So Canada Post has a huge volume of mail that is built up in warehouses that they need to process. They're not even going to be accepting mail, I believe, for the next day or two. So I'll mail your cards next week. So give it a little bit of time to reach you, but they will get to you. And I do want to thank you very much for participating in the contest. I'd like to thank everybody actually for participating in the contest. So that was good fun. Let's move on to our next model. I'll put this one back. And earlier in the show, I presented this model, this PanAm Strata Cruiser, but I've got another model to share with you guys here. Look at this. So there we go, same airplane. Look at this. Also is a PanAm Strata Cruiser in the 1958 PanAm meatball colors. So in a larger scale, I'm not sure what the scale of this model is. It might be like 1/44th. It's quite a small scale. And whoopsie daisy. Give me 1 second. I don't want to get too carried away here. Give me 1 second here, folks. I believe this model is probably closer to 1/100th scale. So this is also a metal model, and I refinished this model. I did a complete restoration on this model and brought it to like brand new museum grade presentation quality. And this model is really beautiful. It's very accurate, and the maker of these models is been out of business for probably 50 years. This was made by an American company that made models for the US, well, the US military. Starting during World War II, they made ID models, and then after the war ended, they continued to make models for the airlines. And it is really, as I say, quite a hefty model. It's a solid metal casting, and I've restored it with auto grade, like the really professional automotive clear coat. So this model will last like this, I'm going to say, for hundreds of years. The clear coat on this is bulletproof, essentially. Very high gloss. It would be impervious to water, moisture, and basic nicks and whatnot, and could be presented in a museum like this and preserved for hundreds of years. So the model is now looking absolutely gorgeous. As I say, PanAm operated these aircraft internationally from the late 1940s up until 1960. And the Strata Cruiser was basically the A380s, the A380 of the 1940s and early 1950s. It was a double-decker aircraft. PanAm used them one of the, I guess, the biggest routes, or the main routes for the PanAm Strata Cruisers was from the US West Coast to Honolulu, Hawaii, to the Hawaiian Islands. Before the Hawaiian Islands were even part of well, they were part of the United States, but before they became a state, Hawaii was a territory. It was in 1959 when Hawaii became a state of the United States. So prior to 1959, it was not a state. It was actually a territory of the United States. And tourists would fly from San Francisco, LA, etc., Seattle, to Hawaii on PanAm Strata Cruisers. Of course, United Airlines and Northwest also operated their Strata Cruisers across the Pacific. Northwest was big into Tokyo. So PanAm more or less owned the Hawaii market. Northwest owned the Tokyo market from the United States. But they both flew across the Pacific with these aircraft. They fuel stopped all the way across the Pacific. South Pacific. PanAm operated these aircraft on their round the world service in both directions. So these were, everybody knew what Strata Cruisers were in the 1950s. It was a big airplane. It was essentially a modified B-29. So it shared the same wing and tail section as the B-29 bomber of World War II. And what Boeing did is they modified the Boeing B-29 into a commercial airliner by double-decking the fuselage and basically retaining the wings and tail, and they renamed that as the Boeing Strata Cruiser. So when the jets came, when the 707s started coming on strength, 58, 59, these airplanes were of course, made obsolete, and PanAm retired their Boeing Stratocruiser fleet in 1960. The PanAm Stratocruisers were basically put out to pasture at Miami International Airport. PanAm had a huge maintenance base at Miami, and all the Stratocruisers were put into storage in Miami in 1960. Most of them were scrapped at a place called Fox Field and Lancaster Field in California, Mojave. Some of them were scrapped in Miami, but most of the Stratocruisers were flown to California high desert for long-term storage. And then I believe it was in the late 1960s, most of them were scrapped. So some of them were modified into guppies, which is a large bulbous fuselage tanker or cargo airplane. But yeah, most of these aircraft, yeah, were scrapped, sadly. So yeah, a lot of history on the Boeing Stratocruiser. And they're just kind of a unique looking airplane, aren't they? I mean, you know, look at that nose. It has a face that only a mother could love. But it was like a cartoon character. You know, they would draw cartoons of this airplane they'd put a face on it. You know, a grinning face. You know, chewing a stogie. That would be that was the typical cartoon character of the Stratocruiser. You know, puffing away on a stogie. So yeah, I just really like the, and this registration is authentic. It is Clipper Hot Spur. You probably can't see it, but right there it says Clipper Hot Spur. Each PanAm Stratocruiser had its own unique Clipper name, which was tied into the registration. And yeah, very, very cool model. Made in America. This model was made in America. And yeah, beautiful. I can't quite remember the name of the maker of this model, but it will come to me. But yeah, very, very nice model. I'll just grab another model here, folks. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay. Let's jump up to the 1960s. Let's jump up to the 1960s with the BAC 111. So, does anybody know this airline? Can anybody that's watching recognize this airline? Does anybody know about this aircraft? Let's have a look. I'm going to give you guys a chance to respond here. Well, this is a BAC 111, also made by Space Models. Space Models from the UK. They were huge. They were huge back in the day. They made models for all the world's airlines and for all the world's manufacturers. Space Models. So what we're looking at is a Space Models BAC 111. I believe it's probably a Series 400 because it's stretched. It doesn't actually say what series it is, but I know that it's a Series 400. German Air was a German, I believe they were mostly an IT tour operator out of points in Germany to sunspots in Southern Europe, basically down to the Canary Islands, Palma, Lanzarote, Greece, Turkey, southern France, etc. Maybe southern Italy as well, North Africa. So German Air, I believe they exist. Well, they prior to these BAC 111s, German Air had prop aircraft, DC-6, and they then upgraded to a small fleet of BAC 111s, I believe, in the late 1960s. And I'm not sure of the exact history on the company, but I believe they were amalgamated or they ceased operations in the mid-70s. So, but yes, this model is a expanded foam or resin model that would have been made by British Aerospace for presentation to German Air. The registration, I think, is correct, DAMIE. The scale is 1/72nd scale. So The scale, again, I'll just show you guys. The scale is the same. So the Dove and even our Dash 8, same scale. So imagine this airplane being a photo chase plane, and that is accurate. They would be on the same scale here. Isn't that interesting? It shows you the difference. I guess this BAC 111 would seat 110 passengers, maybe 110 passengers, 120 in high density maybe. And of course the Dove would seat 8 to 10 passengers. So it just gives you a good reference in the actual size difference between these two aircraft. I'll just put this Dove model safely back. But yeah, what a nice model this is. Nice and accurate. Again, made by Space Models, German Air, German IT operator from the late 1960s, early 1970s. I've had this model in my collection for maybe 15 years. I bought it at the Frankfurt Aviation Show, and it was sold at the table. There was a charity, and people would donate models to this German children charity. It would support children, and they would sell the models, and I bought this model from them. I can't remember their name, otherwise I'd definitely call them out. One AFGeek girl says there is US shipping as well. Let's have a look here. Sydney says, if I buy the book, PayPass. No, that's not correct. Cindy, if you click on the link for US buyers, that will just, there are on the page link for this book, there is a US clickable link, and there's a Canadian clickable link, and there's a UK international clickable link. Just click on the US link and it will apply the correct postage. So you don't have, that's all you need to do. I'm not sure what it says there, but as long as you've clicked on the US purchase link for the book, it's going to be all good. So yeah, that's correct. Paula says, do I have a favorite model? It's a very good question. I don't know that I have one favorite model, but I have a number of favorite models. I can show you one of them, actually. I can show you one of them. Give me a second here, and I will show you one of my favorite models. Okay, so one of my favorite models well, this is one of my favorite models. I'll set it down here. It's in the process of restoration, actually. Good question. So this is one of my favorite models. This is an early I'll just take it off the stand for safety. It's a Conver 880 made by Nemoto of Japan. The scale is probably 1/72nd scale, so it's quite a large scale. It's made of resin, and the fact these models are extremely fragile, and the fact that this model has survived up until the year 2024 is something of a miracle, because they break extremely easily. And very few models would have been made like this. This model was actually commissioned by General Dynamics. This is the original base. It was commissioned by General Dynamics for presentation to Japan Airlines. I believe the registration is correct, JA8021. And these models would have been made in such small numbers, and because they're so fragile, this might be the only example on the planet. I'm not sure, but I cherish this model. It is definitely one of my rarest models. When I got the model, the rear tail was broken and missing, and the two rear stabs were broken and missing. So I have 3D printed the top of the tail. I 3D printed the two rear stabs, and I've reattached them. And this model is in the process of being restored. that it's not yet, I've not yet finished the restoration job. You can still see I've got putty here. It requires more paint, more putty. So I'm in the process of restoring the model. But for me, I wouldn't sell this model. It's just a model that I will hope to have for as long as I'm on the planet, just because it is so special, so unique, and it gives me such joy, this particular model, because it is so accurate and because it is so rare. You can't go find one of these models. You can search for the rest of your years on this planet and you may never find this model again. You can't. It is just such a rare, rare, rare thing. So if somebody, wanted to buy this model, for me, this model is priceless. If you were a billionaire and you wanted this model, what's it worth to you? Pick a number, because it would be like the rarest of watches, in my opinion. Something that, because of its uniqueness, you just cannot find it. So it is something so special and so accurate and so nice. It's not perfect, but wow, it's just a lovely, lovely model. Yeah, it's the Japan Airlines Conver 880. So this would be one of my favorite models. I'm going to put it back because it has to sit in its spot. Bear with me for 1 second, folks. It just needs to go back in its spot. So, while we're on the subject of Nomoto models, here's another Nomoto model, which I'm going to share with you guys. Let me check the battery on the camera, actually. 47%. Wow. Okay, so we're still okay. This is another Nomoto model made in Japan. It's from the 1960s. It's from the mid-1960s. Look at this. The base says Lear Jet. And I'm going to show you on the bottom of the model. I'll be very careful. I don't know if you can see it. It says Nomoto right here. Yes, it says Nomoto here. So this is also a resin model of the very first Lear Jet, with only the first Lear Jet from about 1962-63 only had one window right here, and the model is made of resin, very, very fragile. But this is not as rare as the Conver 880 model. There's more of these around, but again, a lot of these have broken over the years. They're hard to find. It's still a very collectible and valuable model, but it's just a model that is not nearly as rare as the Conver 880. But yeah, Lear Jet. So Nomoto would have had a contract to make these models for Bill Lear when he first launched his company. So this model definitely has some U.S. aviation historical significance, and being a Nomoto model, the Japanese connection is also there as well. So I might say this is also one of my favorite models, just because the shape is so nice and accurate. And I have several of these. I've actually got 3 of these Nomoto Lear Jets. And yeah, Kirsten, you're right. It might be a quick battery change today, just because of the setup, because we're indoors. So yeah, good point, Kirsten. Lear Jets were produced in huge numbers up until, I think, well, they're still producing them. I think Bombardier, which became Canadair, still producing Lear Jets. So it's had a very long production history, the Lear Jet, starting in the early 60s. And this model is where it all started. Such a nice and accurate model, actually. The Lear Jet. So yeah, I like this model. Really, just because of the shape. It's a very, very nice model. So hang on a second, folks. While we're on the subject of... While we're on the subject of biz jets, business aircraft, this is another very classic business jet from the 1960s. It is a Hansa jet made by Verkyle. So this is a metal model, and the Hansa jet was made in Germany. It's a German design with a very unique forward swept wing. It was developed as a business jet at the same time, pretty much, early to mid 1960s, same time as the Lear Jet. Although the Luftwaffe also ordered the Hansa jet as I think it's a calibration aircraft. So they've got calibration equipment on the nose and on the belly and on the tail. So we've got a bulbous tail, we've got a bulbous underfin, and we've got a bulbous nose. So yeah, this was a calibration, airways calibration machine, and really quite nice condition. It would date from, I'm going to say, probably the late 60s, early 1970s, the Hansa jet. So a very accurate model. I like it just because of its accuracy, because it's made of metal, and it's made by Verkyle of the Netherlands. So yeah, this is another one of my favorite models. Quite accurate, yeah. And look at all the bumps and blisters on the underside. Yeah, very, very neat model. Okay, moving right along. Here we have another very nice model. Can you guys guess who made the model? It's actually, look at the branding on it, Tenshodo. Tenshodo. Tenshodo is a Japanese brand that dates from the late 1800s. They are most famous for making model trains, and they have a shop. They've had a shop on the Ginza in Tokyo for the last 100 years, and I was just at the Tenshodo store 2 weeks ago. One F-Geek girl and I were in Tokyo, and we went to visit the Tenshodo store. I've been to the store before. Today they sell trains, okay? And I went to ask them about airplane models. So I'll just give you a brief history on this model and Tenshodo. The way it worked was in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, Tenshodo had an agreement with Nomoto models. And Nomoto built models for sale in the Tenshodo store in the Ginza in Tokyo. So that's why this model has this sticker, Tenshodo, Ginza, Tokyo. So this model would have been sold to a collector out of the Tenshodo store in Ginza in the late 1960s. It's a Frontier Airlines Twin Otter. Frontier operated the Twin Otter on local service routes, probably in about 67, that time frame, 66, 67, 68. So very nicely, look at, we have the Twin Otter logo on the front of the stand. Again, because this model is essentially 55 years old, 50 years at least, probably 55 years old, it's in really nice shape, and it's kind of a rare thing. It's quite a rare model. It's had some touch-ups and restorations, but the fact that it is original Nomoto, and it's over 50 years old, it makes it a very, very desirable and collectible model. And I really like the Tenshodo branding on the stand. So I hope I'm not boring you guys with this, but this is another one of my favorite models just because it's accurate. And again, I'll show you, bear with me. Models are the same scale, the Dove and the Twin Otter, same, both 1/72nd scale. Isn't that interesting? Very cool, isn't it? Very, very neat. So hang on one second, bear with me. Bear with me, guys. So let me have a look at the chat. Let me check the camera. Let me check the camera. Yeah, 40%. Our battery's still at 40%. Let me just have a look at the chat. So let me come back to the chat and have a look at what questions I may have missed. Hello, Greg Hubers. Paula asked, do I collect or do I swap models with other collectors? Well, yes, absolutely. There is a large fraternity of aircraft display model collectors, and at all the shows, whether it's in the States, in the Netherlands, in the UK, the model collectors meet with each other and buy, sell, trade. Many collectors, including myself, will exchange models with other collectors. This model came from another collector in Calgary. If he's watching, he knows who he is, and I appreciate that. But yes, we definitely trade, and that's how we expand our collection. We all have our favorite models. We all have our favorite types, and not everybody has the exact same favorites, whether it's focusing on an airline or a specific model maker or a specific aircraft type. So yes, we exchange models, almost all of us. Very good question. Thank you very much for asking that, Paula. Welcome to the show, Moshin Kokar. My pleasure. I'm very happy to lay the stream on for you guys. And so yes, you are looking forward to this one. Excellent. Well, I'm so glad that you're here to watch. Mohsin says, I only have two models, both 1-200, a Qatar that I picked up at the airport in Doha, and an A350, and 787 model. Okay, well, yes. So the 1-200 scale models, let's talk about the 1-200 scale models, actually. That's a good point. Good question. Let me just grab a 1-200 scale model. Okay, so the 1-200 scale of model is a product of the 1980s and 1990s, I guess you would say. The scale was introduced into the serious model collecting space primarily by Lufthansa with the Herpa premium models in, I believe it was the mid-1980s, probably 84, 85. Lufthansa, in partnership with Herpa, developed this very high detail 1/200th range of models of the Lufthansa aircraft. So 727, DC-10, 747, 737-300, and A300, Airbus 300. And these models were really expensive in the mid-1980s. They were probably the equivalent of $200 or $300 today. They're made of a combination of plastic and metal. They're very heavily weighted. The windows are clear. And these models basically set in stone the 1/200 scale for the collectors. And again, very, very expensive for the day, the equivalent of a couple $100 today. Look how accurate that model is. And these models then led to other model makers getting into the 1/200th scale. And this was not, well, these models were mass market. These were mass market, but they were expensive, so not everybody could afford them. And in the 90s, other companies got into the 1/200 space and brought down the prices, and it became more of a mass consumer model. I mean, well, first, they also branched out into 1/400 scale. So 1/400 scale and 1/200 scale became mass consumer models at lower price points. And basically, these models you could purchase at the retail level. You could buy them at the hobby shops and specialty shops all around the world. Airlines sold them in their in-flight magazines and in their online shops, etc. So everybody could buy these models. The difference between these 1/200 scale models and the models that I'm presenting, these models were these models that I've shown up until now, none of these models were ever available for the for the public, for consumers. These models were made specific for industry. Only airlines and travel agencies had access to these models. The general public, you couldn't get these models. So that's what makes the models that I'm showing and that I collect so special and so unique. Before the internet, these models were just basically locked away in collections, and people had put them away that worked for industry. And over the last 30 years, these models have started to leak out, and collectors like me have been able to build up collections. So the 1/200 scale models, everybody can buy these. So these models are a lot easier to get. I myself only collect the really special 1/200 scale models, like this Herpa range, just because it's so detailed and they're so beautiful. But generally, today I'm focusing on the professional aircraft models. The 1/200 scale die casts are they're very, very nice models, but they're just not something that I actively collect. So yeah, very, very good point and very good question. What other questions have we got here? Greg says, how many models do I have? I haven't actually counted how many models I have, but I would approximate it to be in the 200 range. Probably I have a couple of hundred models, and because I always have models coming and going, that model count is pretty constant. I'm always acquiring models and I'm always selling models. So because of that, I only have so much room, so my model collection really can't expand beyond the number that I have now. I just don't have the space. So the only way for me to enjoy new models is for me to acquire new models, but I have to sell models to get space. So good question. PB477 says he has the exact same model, this beautiful 727. Kirsten says, someone asked me if you have a cargo jet 7.5. No, I don't have any cargo jet models, but I know that cargo jet did make 757 and 767 models. Maybe by writing the company, they might be able to sell you one. That might be a good idea. So Greg says, how much is this model? I think this model is worth around 100 euros, $100, something like that. That's what these models sell for now. If they're in bad condition, probably half that. But it's around $100, I think, for this model. Somewhere in that price range. Yeah. So let me I'll put this model back. Give me 1 second and I'll check the battery. Hang on, let me check the battery. 30%. So in 10 minutes, we'll do a battery change. Okay, so yeah, in about 10 minutes, any United Airlines, asks PanAm, do I have any United Airline models? Let me think. That's a good question. Do I have any United? You know what? It's such a big airline. United is. I mean, I've owned United Airline models, but I don't know that I have any right now. I don't think I do. I'm looking around and I do not see I see PanAm. I see Delta. Definitely lots of PanAm, Delta, TransCanada, JAL. Air Canada, Horizon, Aeroflot, British Midland, Pacific Western, DHL, TAP Portugal. But no, I don't have any United Airlines. But what I do have is this big boy. Look at this. This is a Republic Airlines 727-100 in 1/50th scale in the 1985 color scheme that Republic replaced Herman the Goose with. So yes, this model is made by Pacific Miniatures. Well, at the time, Pacific Miniatures was based in Alhambra, California. This is 1/50th scale. It's a monster and made of one-piece fiberglass. Really nice model. Yes, I do have RJ models. I've got a Delta Airlines RJ. Maybe I'll show that to you here in just a second. Yeah, so this model would be for office use only or travel agency use, and it's in pretty mint condition. It has some yellowing, so these models can yellow over the decades, but this model's in pretty good shape. It doesn't have any damage to it. It hasn't been nicked or banged, really. It's in really quite nice shape. So yes, this is the largest scale that I will typically collect, which is 1/50th scale. And yes, I do have an L1011 model. I can show that to you here in just a second. I do like the 727 3-holer. I don't have a lot of space for these big models, so I typically only own them for a short period of time because I like to own them, but I can't keep them because I want to own other models as well. So yeah, this is cool. The Republic Airlines 727 200. And this was the color scheme. This was the last colors of Republic. They were merged into Northwest Airlines in 1987, and then of course these airplanes carried Northwest type. They painted out the Republic and they put Northwest titles on them as well. And these aircraft were merged into the Northwest fleet during 1987 to 1990. Thereabouts. Yeah, so this is a beautiful Republic 727-100 fiberglass. So a very strong model. These are almost indestructible. Indestructible. Hang on, guys. Let me do a battery change now, because I just don't want to have a chance of the battery collapsing on us. So give me a second, and then I'm going to show you an L1011. Cindy, that's a good question, asking about the L1011. Give me 1 second, guys. We're just going to do a battery change. So I'm behind the camera right now. Hang on, guys. I've got the battery here. Let me silence my phone. Okay, I'm back to my camera. Sorry about that, guys. Now I can do the battery change. So, give me a second here. Give me 1 second, and we'll get our battery change done. Okay, hang on, guys. Battery change, battery change. Right now, battery change. Okay. Thank you, guys. Now, somebody asked about, who was it that asked about the L1011? Oh, Cindy asked about an L. Yes, I do have a number of L1011 models. I like the L1011. I like the DC-10. I'll show you, let me show you one of my favorite L1011 models. Ooh. Okay. So, well, it's not in perfect shape, but this is a vintage 1970s L1011 model. I actually acquired this from my very good friend and fellow collector, Anthony Lawler. He sold this model to me because he had a spare. And yeah, Gulf Air L1011. I think this model would date from about 1978, maybe. So that's a good guess. And look at the stand. It has the Lockheed logo on the bottom, and they've put a fictitious registration. Let me see if I can. Yeah, Gulf. That's not accurate, but anyhow, it's a cute touch. Anyhow, this model is in 140. I believe it's 1/44th scale. Pretty sure that it's 1/44th scale, and it is made by Verkuyl of the Netherlands. It's made of metal. It's made of metal. So Verkuyl, he was a Dutch-based aircraft model maker. from the 1950s up until the 1980s, and his models were very accurate and very beautiful. Just such nice models. And this one's in really nice condition. It has as I say, it has a few nicks and bumps, but you know what? They're metal. These models are prone to have damage on them, and this one has very, very minimal damage. So it's in really, really nice shape, and I like the model a lot. Gulf Air was one of the leading international airlines that operated the TriStar. There weren't a huge amount of overseas TriStar operators. Most of them were in the continental United States and Air Canada, North America. But internationally, you had Gulf Air with a huge fleet. Of course, British Airways had a huge fleet. The Gulf Air TriStars were just beautiful. They operated into Heathrow Airport daily during their entire tenure with the company. So basically, if you lived in England and you did plane spotting at Heathrow, you would see Gulf Air's TriStars. And what a nice iconic livery. The golden, it says here, Golden Falcon. So this is the Golden Falcon scheme. It's very, 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 very nice. So yeah, I'm glad you like this model, and I'm glad somebody asked about the TriStar, because it is just a very, very advanced airplane. It was a very successful airliner. It was much more technically advanced than the Douglas DC-10. So I'm not a pilot. I can't speak to the details on those advancements, but I do know that Lockheed took a number of delays in putting the L-1011 into service, and a lot of airlines were upset at those delays, you know, back in the early 1970s. And I know some of those delays were also tied into the RB211 engine, the Rolls-Royce engine. There were delays in development on the engine, and I believe Rolls-Royce had to financially essentially bail out the L-1011 program. It was about to go under, but Rolls-Royce needed a customer for their engine. It was almost custom designed for the TriStar, and Rolls-Royce couldn't have Lockheed go belly up because of delays and airline canceled orders for the TriStar. So Rolls-Royce financially ponied up the money to keep the program afloat until the engine was ready. So that's a bit of airline history for you that you can read about more in depth if you do a Google search on it. But yes, this is the iconic Golden Falcon livery of the Gulf Air TriStar. I think Gulf Air probably retired these airplanes in the early 90s or sometime in the 90s. That would be my guess. But finding this model, very hard. I did not own this model until my friend Anthony Lawler sold me this example. And I since acquired another one, which I then resold, but it wasn't quite in as nice condition as this one. So thank you, Anthony, for selling me this model. Anthony brought the model up to Vancouver on one of his many fishing trips, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah, he brought it up in his suitcase, and he sold me the model. So this model will remain in my collection for the long haul. So yeah, Anthony, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lovely model, lovely model. I'll just put this back and I'll grab something else for us to chat about. Be there in just a second. Okay, so this is a neat model. Look at this. This is a Transport Aérien Intercontinental Douglas DC-8 with authentic registration, FBT Alpha India. This would date from the early 1960s. This is a plastic model in 1/100 scale made by Bourbon. Bourbon was a French aircraft model maker, and they made these DC-8 models for all the airlines pretty much that operated DC-8s coming into France. So that would include TAI, UTA, Air Gabon. Who else? There's other African operators that brought their DC-8s into Paris in the 1960s. Air Congo, Air Gabon, TAI, UTA, Aeromaritime. So yes, they all had these models, and it is green. It is quite a pretty scheme, Paula. You're right. Very, they have the green and yellow on with the yellow highlights on the tail. So this is the original series of the DC-8. So what do we know about this company? Does anybody know about this company, Transport Aérien, TAI? They were the French overseas airline that connected Paris with Tahiti. So they operated round the world service, basically, from France all the way to Tahiti, usually, I believe, via Los Angeles. But if you wanted to fly from Paris to Tahiti, to French Polynesia, or to Réunion, you would have flown on TAI, and they, I believe, stopped at other points in the South Pacific as well. So they were merged into, I think they were merged into Aeropostale and UTA. And UTA, of course, replaced these DC-8s with DC-10s. So this is an early 1960s livery. The model's in really nice condition. It had quite an elaborate base, and that base has since become separated from the model. So we fabricated a new attachment here just for a wire model. But I think the treatment, it's not a terribly valuable model. I think this model would probably, you can pick these up for maybe 100 euros, 150 euros. I mean, maybe this one is in really nice condition, so maybe a bit more than that, but they are just quite nice. The nose window isn't entirely accurate, is it? But nice model. Very nice model. By the way, when I mentioned Tahiti, great place to go for a holiday, by the way. One AvGeek girl and I were there in 2016, and definitely we look forward to going back to Tahiti one day. What plans do you guys have for the Christmas holidays? I'm just wondering if any of you that are watching now are going to be flying somewhere, going somewhere. Just curious what you have coming up for the holidays. Just maybe put that into the chat. I'm curious to see what Christmas plans you have. We just came back from our holidays, so I was over in Asia, and we visited Thailand. We were in Phuket, Bangkok, and then we came up to Japan, Tokyo, but we also did a side trip down to the fabulous island of Okinawa, and I'll upload some content on that over the holidays. But yeah, so that's what I did. That's what we did. But I'm curious to know what you guys have coming up. Zeke 439 asks, do I have a 737 attaché livery model? No, I don't, but I do know that the model existed. I'm going to see if, give me 1 second, because I'm going to put this model back. Give me a second, because I have something to show you guys. So I'm just going to see if I can quickly find it. Hang on, guys. I am here. And just a second, guys. I'm here. I'm not going away. I'm not going away. Well, so I want to thank Zeke for asking the question. This is the attaché 737 that Canadian Pacific CP Air placed into service circa 1985. It was a 737-300, and it was in basically a light, I'm going to call it an ivory and gray color scheme. The fuselage is gray. On the lower section here was gray. And these are Boeing promo shots of this particular airplane that Zeke just asked about. And yes, I know that the model exists because there's a photograph of in this series of photos that I have in my archive. There's also a picture of the model, and I was looking for that picture to show you because the model does exist. I'll make one more attempt to find that photo because it is kind of neat to see. And let me have a look here. So this is my one of my folders from my archive on CP Air. So in this folder, we have some photographs, some model photographs, which I'm not sure if the actual if that model is in here. I think it was, but just give me 1 second because stand by 1 second. At least we can do this together. And that picture, yes, I found it. Oh yes, oh yes. Look at this, guys. There's the model. There is the model. I knew I could find it. Look at this. This is, I believe, a 1/100 scale model made by the Boeing Model Shop. Special model. I've never seen one of these. This is just a publicity photo of the model, and they must be out there. But in all my years of collecting, so in the mid 80s, Boeing was marketing their then brand new 737-300 as a 737-200 replacement. So CP Air purchased the aircraft. Okay, Boeing made the model in the attaché livery, and the airplane was delivered in about 1985. So Boeing also marketed the 737-300 to Air Canada. This model needs restoration, okay, but it is in the original livery. I need to replace the titles and redo the tails and put in a new cockpit. That's on my to-do list, but at least this shows you that Air Canada was also on the target customer list of Boeing for the 737-300. Why? Air Canada in the mid-1980s had about, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 Douglas DC-9s as their primary medium-haul aircraft. And the 737 wasn't a step up, of course. The CFM56 engines were a lot more fuel efficient than the JT-8 engines that were on the 737-200s operated by the DC-9s of Air Canada. So this was a more fuel-efficient airplane. Air Canada pushed hard for Air Canada, or I should say Boeing pushed hard for Air Canada to become a customer. They made this model as a sales model to show, they presented this model to Air Canada to say, hey, why don't, you guys should have these airplanes. You guys should order these airplanes. So Air Canada never did purchase the 737-300, but 30 years later, Air Canada, of course, ordered the 737 MAX. So this is the history. This is the history. Air Canada started that campaign in about 1984, 1985. And it took from 1984 to 2015 for Air Canada to finally say, yes, we're going to buy the 737. So isn't that amazing? It took 30 years. This model is evidence that Boeing worked for 30 years to sell their MAX to their Boeing 737 to Air Canada. And as we all know, Air Canada now has a large fleet of 737 MAX aircraft. That large fleet of MAX aircraft is now going to be handed over to Rouge. And Air Canada is also taking delivery of A320, 321 Neo aircraft as well. So a lot happening at Air Canada as well. So, but this model is really neat because, as I say, Air Canada never accepted delivery of the 737-300, but CP Air did, and it was in the form of this Attaché 37. So that was a great question asked by Zeke439. And Zeke, I want to thank you for that. Was just great. So glad that you asked that question. Let's have a look at what other questions you guys might have here. Let me have a quick look at the chat. When did Air Canada have the Minty Frisch livery? Then I'm not sure about that. Maybe it was around the year 2000, something like that. Motion says, when you say you will repair the models, do you mean that you will paint the color on? Yes, that is correct. What I will do is I will reprint these I'll remove these old decals. I'll reprint the decals. I'll put the decals on. I'll touch up the paint. I do everything from paint work to decal work. That is correct. And yes, you can purchase model decals from all kinds of websites on the internet. I'll name some for you now. There's Runway 26 Decals, that's owned by Ray in the UK. There's F Decals for French decals, F Decals. They have a large range of decals. There is Vintage Flyer Decals. That's based in California, owned by Michael. Michael's a great guy. And of course, in Minnesota, we have Greg Draw, awesome guy, and he owns Draw Decals. So I've just listed off a handful of decal makers that you can purchase airline decals from to restore your models. So I hope you found that helpful and useful. And what other questions did I might have missed? I'm looking here. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, what else can I show you guys? Just give me a second. I want to put these photographs away, and I'll put this model away. So give me 1 second. I don't want to get too cluttered here. I'm just going to put these photographs away so that they're out of our working space. But I have something to show you from my CPR file here. It's kind of interesting. So, this article is from a early 1980s newspaper article, and it has Dan Clousey, who I believe was the president of CPR. And in this company photo of Dan Clousey, look what he's got. He has a DC-10 model, CPR. He's got a CPR 737-200 model, and he's got a CPR 747 model. So when this model, this article, there's no, unfortunately, yes, 1982. So this article dates from 1982. That's the year I graduated from high school. And so I was 18 years old when this article came out. So when I was 18 years old, I was obsessed with airlines and aviation. And sorry, I'm just going to have to silence my chat here. Just give me 1 second. It's just too much. Just bear with me. Bear with me. I'm sorry. Somebody's banging my phone here. And I'll have to deal with that later. This would have appeared in the Vancouver Sun newspaper, 1982. I was 18 years old, graduating from high school, and I was obsessed with aviation and airlines. And when I would have seen this article and these models, I would have been dreaming about how can I get models like this. And as an 18-year-old, impossible. Impossible. In the early 80s, in 1982, there was no eBay, there was no internet, there was no way of communicating with other collectors. As a student, as a high school student, I could only dream of these models. I could only look at these models in the windows of travel agencies and airline offices and wonder, how could I get models like this in my collection? And it would take, well, decades. Here we are, 45 years later, and I now have these models that I find so interesting, and I'm now, you know, in awe that these models are out there. But back then, these models were strictly the domain of airline chief executives and people in industry. So collectors, for the most part, were locked out of these models. But yes, CPR, my home-based airline. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. It's just a really neat piece of history here. So, and by the way, here's also, just to show you, this is from Look at this article. December the 2nd, 1986, Vancouver Sun. It says, Pacific Western Airlines buys CP Air for $300 million. So there you go. It was almost on this day, December the 2nd, the birthday of somebody I know. on her birthday in 1986, so she was 20 years old, PW bought CP Air. And of course, the new company would be renamed Canadian Airlines International. So that's the history. Unbelievable. I just wanted to share this little bit with you guys. So yeah, what have you guys got planned for the holidays? Again, let me have a look here and see what you guys have coming up, because I'm curious to know what you guys are doing. Let's have a look here. Well, hello Gary, welcome to the show. Hello Sue, welcome to the show. What have you guys got? Crushing Vanessa. Hello Crushing. By the way, Crushing, you might have missed it, but our books, the Air Canada books are now, I've just received them. They're at our distribution points here in Canada and in the United States, and these are going to be sent out by courier between now and the next week or so. So Crushing Vanessa, your book will be on its way to you quite soon by courier, though. I'm not using Canada Post. I'm using courier for our Canadian deliveries, just because Canada Post is so blocked up. So I'm using ICS, Purolator, and Canpar. So just wanted to give you the heads up on that, Crushing Vanessa. Crushing Vanessa says, hi buddy. Hey buddy, I hope it's warmer over there. Yes, it's wet and rainy. That's why I'm doing an indoor model show today. How many of these models were ever saved? Yeah, yes, exactly. A lot of these models did go to the garbage. Absolutely. I'm guessing a small percentage, maybe 5% of these models, 10% survive. Again, I'm sorry about this, guys. My phone's just... there we go. A lot of these models ended up in landfills, and they're gone forever. So diehard collectors like us are the ones that keep the airline history alive through these models. So I should point out, if any of you watching have any of these models and it's not your thing, maybe your family or your parents worked in the airline industry and you've got these models, and you'd like for the models to end up with a good home, I am a cash buyer. So if you'd like to sell your professional aircraft display models, please contact me. My email is, I'll put my email into the chat right now, just so again you have it. It's my name, Henry Tenby @gmail.com. So if you have any models, professional models, you know, the airline display models that you would like to sell, send me an email. Send me some pictures of the models that you have, and maybe I could purchase them from you, or I could perhaps find if I'm not interested in the models personally, I can help you find a new home for them. So, but if they're definitely old models, I'm probably interested. So that would be amazing. I'm just trying to think of what else I can tell you guys. Yeah, I was curious what you guys had planned for the holidays. Father Norman says family's coming for Christmas, plus some work. Yeah, that's it. Some quiet time, right? You know, some quiet days so you can focus on work that needs to be done. I know that's what I'll be doing. I'll be focusing on getting these books packaged and out, because I've got a lot of pre-orders, over 100 pre-orders of the book actually, and each one of those has to be packed, addressed, and shipped accordingly. So I've got to get the pre-orders out on the Air Canada history book. So yes, definitely can relate to, you know, doing some work as well. Karen Lewis asked, do I have a Concorde model? Yes, I do. I have a Concorde model. I'll show it to you. It's a small model, but I have it. 1 second. Well, this is my Concorde model. It is a very pequeño model, very small model. 1 second, guys. Do I have a Concorde model? Yes. So again, look who made this model. It is made by Space Models out of the UK. This is, I believe, 1/200 scale in the 1970s livery. My voice, I'm losing my voice. British Airways. These models were made, I think the public could buy these models. I think British Airways sold these, but it is a desktop model. It's like a high quality finish model. It's a very nice model. And they were expensive. I'm guessing they were probably 50 pounds 50 years ago, or maybe 50 pounds 40 years ago, something like that. So they were expensive. But this is a little 1/200 scale model. British Airways, this is the color scheme. I remember seeing these models. I remember seeing these actual aircraft roaring out of Heathrow. I used to visit the executive display model showroom at the Sheraton Skyline Hotel on Bath Road, north side of Heathrow Airport. And whenever I would go to visit Brian Austria Tompkins at his showroom, well, he sold these as well, there would be a Concorde or Concords taking off on the north runway, thundering out of Heathrow for New York and maybe other points as well. Miami, yes. British Airways they had a Miami run and they had a New York run with a Concorde simultaneously. So you would see 2 Concorde departures, and I specifically remember that. I visited London in the mid-80s, in the early 90s, mid-90s, and I always remember the Concordes departing on the north runway when I'd be in the parking lot at the Sheraton Skyline Hotel. I mean, everything would shake, car alarms would go off. It was like an earthquake. So yes, these models were sold at the Executive Display Models showroom at the Sheraton Skyline Hotel, and I think British Airways sold the models as well. So produced in very large numbers, hundreds if not thousands of these models were made. And as I say, these models were like 50 pounds in 40 years ago. So, you know, so they weren't cheap. So Crushing says it looks like 1/44 scale. Okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, it could be 1/4. That makes sense, 1/44 scale. Could be that for sure. And so there you go. That's my Concorde model. Crushing Vanessa says, I have an Osgard DC-9 Air Canada. Yes, I've got the same model. I've actually got 2 of them. That's right. Yeah, was Osgard still in business? I didn't know that. That's an interesting point. They might be. I didn't realize that. But yes, one of my Air Canada DC-9 Osgard models was so beat up and thrashed, I restored it. I repainted it into a different airline colors. Air Pacific, actually, is how I did that. So, Wojtek says, I'd like to see your Air Canada book at Flight City. Yes, it's on my list to take the books to Don at Flight City. He's on my list of people to call to advise that the book is here. So maybe on Friday I will be able to take some books over to Don so he can start selling them out of Flight City. So good point. Thank you very much, Wojtek, for asking about that. So yeah, we'll get these books over to Flight City as well. I can't promise, but I'll try to do it on Friday or early next week. So let me just put the Concorde model away. But yeah, we're having good chat, guys. I appreciate it. Hang on. I'll grab another model here while we're at it. Stand by 1. Just give me a second here, folks. Stand by 1 second. I have to carefully put the model back from whence it came. Here we go. Okay, let me grab another model. Okay, I got something nice. Ta-da! Beautiful. I hope you guys are doing well. Again, we're just having a very casual chat here. This would normally be our YVR airport live stream. I'd be out at the airport set up by the runway doing our live stream. But it's raining here in Vancouver today, and because it is the start of the holidays, I thought let's do a special indoor show. We're going to talk about models and hobbies and whatnot, my books, We did the contest, and it's a chance for us to hang out with each other for a little bit just before the holidays. So look at this model. I haven't put the props on yet, but this model was made in France by Bourbon in the 1960s. It's a 1/100th Viscount, but I refinished it. I'm the guy who basically redid this model in Turkish Airlines, Turk Havayolari, Turkish Airlines livery. It's an authentic registration, TCSEC. I have the props. Excuse me, my voice, just because of the talking, just gets a little bit tired, so I apologize. I've got the props. They're actually clear plastic discs, so it's gonna. This is a nice model. I love the Turkish Airlines Viscount livery, and yeah, isn't it a gorgeous livery? Turkish Airlines Viscount. This is the original stand as well, the original plastic stand. These were actually cheap models that were mass-produced by Bourbon in the 1960s. They weren't expensive back then. I guess the airlines could order these for not much money, and they were cheap promotional items to have for the travel agencies that they sold tickets through. It's a very light model, weighs almost nothing, right? And but it is, look at, I mean, I've put the very high grade of automotive clear coat on it, and this looks so beautiful. Let me just have a look at your chat. Yeah, thank you, Father Norman. I thought, yeah, this is a good way for us to connect, have fun, and have a chit chat. Mosian asks, what's my oldest model? I have to think about that. Wojtek says, I bought Air Travel Time Machine at Flight City. Good, yes, that's wonderful. And Hans Olaf says, yes, the Russians had their own version of the Concorde, the Tu-144, that my professional work. Yes, well, I've been building models since I was a kid, so I'm by no means the best model maker out there. I'm far from it. But I just do the best I can, and I have a shop here in Vancouver that is able to do my auto grade clear coat work. So this is bulletproof automotive clear coat that will basically last forever. So it's a 2-part epoxy clear coat that is impervious to water and fuel. It's even gasoline proof. That's why I call it a bulletproof clear coat. And it's a 2-part chemical reaction that makes this so hard, the clear coat. So yeah, it has to be applied by somebody that knows what they're doing. It's a 2-part that is, if you put it on wrong, it's just a disaster. So the person needs to be an expert, and I do have access to that service here in Vancouver. So somebody asked, what was my oldest model? Yes, my oldest model, that's a very good question. It could be, I have that would be for another show. It would be my short Sunderland flying boat model, perhaps. That's an old one. It could be this model. Could be this model. Let's see if I can show it to you. This is not, it's in not very good condition. It's a Boeing Stratoliner. This could be one of my oldest models. It's a wooden model of a Boeing Stratoliner. It needs to be refinished. It's in kind of rough shape. So yeah, Boeing Stratoliner could be one of my oldest models, maybe, perhaps. Or, hang on guys. I put it in the wrong spot. I'll put it back later. Back. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it could be the Boeing Stratoliner. I can show those other models next time. But, you know, I think, okay, and Addy UK, hi Henry, I heard you say that you have a British Midland. Yes, I have a British Midland Herald model made by Executive Display Models or Space Models. So in 1/72nd scale, but that would be for another show. Crushing says, do I have a shelf of doom where you have the basket case models? Well, yes. I mean, I've got a huge amount of models that are in the process of restoration, actually. They're not just in one place, but yes, I have a lot of those models as well. And, you know, there's just so many models to show. That can be for another time, I think. But, you know, we've been here, and we've now been streaming for 2 hours. I think we've had a nice meeting with each other today. I think we're at the point where we can call it a wrap. Yeah, it's been 2 hours. It's gone by so quick. I can't believe it. So I just want to thank you all for being here. Gary says, how many models do I have? Yeah, it's a couple hundred at least a couple hundred. I've never counted them. But just by eyeballing it, I think the number's in a couple hundred. So, but I want to thank you all for hanging out with me for this show, this special show today, given the bad weather. And I may do another one of these shows over the holidays. Who knows? We'll just have to play it by ear. I'm wishing everybody a very happy and Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season. Safe travels wherever you happen to be going for the holidays. And if you collect these models, I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you don't collect these models, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you found it interesting. There's definitely more models to do, a lot more of these shows actually. So we've got more to come. So Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Wishing everybody all the best. Thanks so much for watching today. It's been good fun. I've really enjoyed it. Hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. It was a unique show, I agree, Sue. And all of you guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here in the chat. It just made it really interesting. I mean, really, I could go all day, but I think we just have to draw the line. Could definitely go all day because this is a subject which is near and dear and very passionate to my heart. So thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. It's been a good one. We'll see everybody very, very soon. I'm going to end the show here. All the best. Peace to all. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.